Today is our tutorial on the Vivaldi Concerto in D minor. Welcome back. Welcome to the studio. My name is Cassie and I'm a professional violist and teaching artist. So we're going to work on several things that we're going to encounter in the Vivaldi D minor Concerto from Suzuki Book 4. The first thing up is we have a lot of shifting in this book. So I'm going to go to first position with my first finger on the A string, and I'm going to play B, then third finger D, and then I'm going to use my first finger and my forearm to shift between those. Now the reason that we played the third finger is so that we know what pitch we're shifting to. So I'm hearing it first, I'm audiating it, and then I'm shifting to it. Let's try that again. Play 1, 3, then shift between. So the most common shift we're going to encounter in this piece is from first position to third position. So once that becomes comfortable, we're going to not sound the shift in between. So I'll play 1, 3, same motion, but I'm not sounding it in between. In addition to our shifts upward, we have several shifts downward from third position to first position. So we would do the same thing in reverse. So I'm going to start in third position with my first finger on D. And I'm going to sound the shift. Remember, we don't want our wrist to break on the shift down. The motion should come from your forearm. You can do the same thing on the way up. And back down. Things that I'm remembering are during the shift, my finger weight is light. I'm not pressed into the string. So I'm gliding on top of the string. If you've ever been ice skating or roller skating, it should kind of feel like that. You're just gliding along the top of the string. And a reminder that your wrist shouldn't break. So there is a tendency on the downward shifts, especially for your wrist to want to lead. And that can cause tension in your wrist. It's not a great hand position to have. So we want to have a straight wrist all the way down. Imagine that your forearm is leading the shift. As the title of this piece indicates, we are in D minor in this piece. So we're going to do a D minor scale. And on the way up, we're going to do it regularly, and then the second time through, we're going to incorporate a shift into third position. So let's do the D minor scale ascending, or going up. And the notes here are D, E, F natural, G, A, B flat, C, D. This is the natural minor scale. So let's try that nice full bows. Ready? Go. E, F natural, same scale, but when I get up to my second finger on the A string, I'm going to incorporate a shift to third position. So that will sound like this. 2, shift to 1, and back down again. 2, 1, etc. So let's try that whole scale again, and we're going to incorporate that shift at the end. Open D, go. E, low 2, time to stop the video and practice that shift, isolate it if that's still an issue for you. The other thing that might happen, and I see this a lot of times with students, is that they don't shift in the speed that we're going in. So if our tempo is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, they'll shift too quickly and it causes a jerking sound, or you can almost hear the shift up. So the shift is just a little bit too fast. The other thing is it could be the opposite. The shift could be too slow. So we want to make sure that the speed of the shift matches the speed that we're going. I always recommend starting slowly and building up the tempo. Now we're going to talk about specific measures in the piece. So the very first measure, we've got an A pickup, and then we're already in third position. So if you're not sure where to find that first finger third position, you can always check with your third finger. So you're going to play 3, and then match that with your 1. You can also tell if you're in the right position. There's a nice ringing sound. Or you can match with your open D. So we begin in third position, and then immediately in the second measure, we've got to shift back down to first position on the C. So we're going to play the second measure, but we're going to pause before the downward shift. So let's try that. Second measure. Ready? Go. Freeze, shift down with your 1, and then plop your 2. Let's try that again. Find third position. And we're going to pause again before the shift. Ready? Go. Pause, shift, plop. So as you practice that, once that shift is comfortable and you're nailing it, let's say 3 times in a row, you're probably really confident about it, you can take that pause out. Shift. And then as the tempo increases, you can speed up your shift speed as well. The next type of shift we encounter is in measure 18, and we call this a finger replacement shift. So measure 18 starts with our third finger in first position, and then the next note is indicated with a 1. So I'm going to replace my 3 with my 1. So let's try that. We're going to sound the shift this time. Try that again. Back to first position, third finger. Sound the shift, so my first finger's traveling from first position to third position. Once that's comfortable, we're going to do that shift without sounding it. So I play my 3 in first position, and then I replace it. The notes should match. Again, that reminder that you're doing the shift with your forearm and it's going in the speed that you're playing. So if you're playing slow, your shift speed should be a little bit slower. Obviously, a faster tempo will require a faster shifting speed. The next measure I want to talk about is measure 24. We have a bow distribution issue here. So we've got a sequence of 16th notes, and we've got the first note separated, then 2 slurred, then 1 separated. Now, if I use too much bow on any of those events, watch what happens. I'm going to use a lot of bow on that first 16th note. I got stuck at the tip. If I use a lot of bow on the slur, I get stuck at the frog. So our goal is going to be to stay right in the middle of the bow. So essentially what that requires is that the separate notes use as much bow as the slurred notes. Another way to think about that is because there's 2 notes that are slurred together, your separate notes have to equal your slurred notes, so 1 note has to equal 2. So I want to make sure that my down bow equals my up bow, and then my down bow has to equal my up bow again. So if you want to think about it in mathematical terms, let's say you're going to use 1 inch for each of those actions. So my first down bow is 1 inch, 1 inch on the up bow, and 1 inch on the down bow. So one great way to practice it is doing just that. We're going to go really, really slow. Make sure that you're staying within 1 inch of that middle of the bow. And we're going to stop after each action. So after my down bow, I stop. After my up bow, I stop. And I want to make sure I traveled back to roughly the same spot. So let's try that together. Ready? Go. As you can see, each of the initial notes has an accent on it, so we're going to use a little bit more bow. And arm weight on those to emphasize them. But again, we don't want to go too crazy with our bow usage because we'll end up in the wrong part of the bow. The next new thing that we encounter in this piece is treble clef. So you may be familiar with treble clef, you may have seen it in pieces before, but for us, that's new in this piece. If you want to know how to read treble clef for viola, I'll link the video that I made on it here. But we're going to go over a quick just treble clef tutorial. So for treble clef, the lines from the bottom, from the lowest to the highest, is E, G, B, D, F. And the sentence we use to remember that is every good burger deserves fries. The spaces are face, F-A-C-E. So you'll notice between measure 27 and 28, we have to shift to third position and we're shifting clef. So we started in alto clef and we're going to start measure 28 in treble clef. So let's try that. I'm going to start measure 27, first position, low 1. Now I have to shift to third position, so I'm going to check that. And then I have to plop my 4, which is the note G in treble clef. Good, let's try that much again. Go back to first position, beginning of measure 27. Shift to third position, and then plop 4. Now, when you're learning this new clef, the mistake that I made when I was learning treble clef on viola is I wrote in all the note names. And while that is really, really helpful, I suggest doing that on, make a copy of your page and do that elsewhere so that you have it as a reference. The more clutter that you have on the page, it tends to get a little bit confusing. Take note that at the end of that line at measure 30, it does switch back into alto clef. So you have to kind of switch your brain between treble and alto again. And that does happen several times in this piece. So it's really good practice for us as violists because we do have to know both clefs fluently. The next measure I want to talk about is measure 33. We have another shift kind of out of the blue here. So at the beginning of the measure, we're in first position in in alto clef. And then the last note of that measure is indicated with a 2. So I'm going to play my open A, and then out of the blue I have to find where that 2 goes. Now, the good thing about this is that we've got that open A as a reference, so we know what it should sound like. And again, this is just a first finger shift to third position. So while I'm playing that A, in my head, what I'm thinking is on the D string, first finger, shift to third position, plop 2. So let's just try that. We're going to play our open A, then shift with your first finger from E to G on the D string, and then plop your 2. Let's do that one more time. 1 shift. Now we're going to try that silently to see if we can make it to third position successfully. 1, 1. You can check that with your open G. And then plop your 2. Let's try that again silently. 1, 1. Oh, didn't quite make it. Let's do that again. 1, 1. And then plop your 2. Good, let's see if we can execute that a little bit quicker. 1, 1, plop 2. And hopefully they match. Now the goal is to not have to do that 1, 1 shift. Eventually you'll learn what it feels like to be in third position, and you won't have to do that. You can just kind of pick it out of the blue. But again, that does take a lot of practice. So patience with yourself, go through all the steps, and eventually you will know, okay, I'm in third position, or I can make a really quick adjustment before my bow sounds that note. Our next area is around measure 46. I do want to play through this because there's a lot of tricky things. So we're in treble clef, we've got a lot of really fast string crossings, so let's just go through that whole section. I'm starting the pick up to 46. So this is third position on the A string. So I'm going to find third position, remember that 1, 1 shift. And I'm going to plop a high 2 E. That's our first note there. So my first note's E, then a low 3, F natural, and then 4, which does not touch 3. The next note is indicated with a 2, so I have to cross over to the D string, staying in third position. This is the note A. So let's try that whole little bit again. Find third position, plop your 2, low 3, 4, stay in third position, hop your 2 over. Then I have to hop it right back to the A string for the next 2 notes. Low 3, 4, hop that 2 back to the D string for the note A, hop it back to the A string, then we've got alto clef, so we're back. We know these notes a little bit more comfortably. I'm going to shift back to first position on that open D. Now we're back to treble clef on the note D. So this is the D that I would usually find on the A string, but it's in third position. So I'm going to do that sequence from the open D, first finger D, and then make that shift. I'm going to test, plop, and find that D. Let's try that again. So your open D, first finger D, test, plop. Good, let's try that without the test this time. So open D, first finger D, shift. And again, these are all the note D, so you know what that sounds like. We've just played two of them. And you can test. If it's nice and ringy, I've hit D. So this happens really, really quick in the actual piece. So again, the way to practice that is isolated. I'm going to do open D, first finger D, tap to check, and then shift. The more you can do that successfully before you try to take out the tap, the quicker you will be able to find that without having to do the tap. So we're going to continue on. Let's start from that open D again. Shift back to treble clef. The note is D, high to E, touching 3, F. Now our next note is G. So I'm staying in third position. I'm hopping my first finger to the D string. Hopping my first finger back to the A string. High 2, touching 3. Hop 1 back to the D string, hop 1 back to the A string, now here we've switched again into alto clef. Keep your finger in third position, but hop it over to the G string, and then it's an open C. So let's try that again. We're going to go from the beginning of measure 49 in third position, first finger on G. Hop it over to the A string. Stay in third position, hop over to the G string, and then open G. Now while I'm playing that open, I'm going to shift back to first position, and we're back to treble clef on the note C. So that's a low 2 on the A string. Regular D, low 4 E flat. And then we switch back into alto clef, familiar territory. So that's a lot to go through in a few short measures. So if you need to, just rewind the video, watch it again, and review the notes. Speaking of a great reference, as we continue on in the piece, the pickup to 58 is the recapitulation or the recap. And this is where the beginning material appears again. So at the beginning we were in alto clef, but here it's written in treble clef. So if you need to know, if you need like a quick reference guide, just look at the very first measure. Okay, an alto clef, that's an A. Okay, well here the pickup to 58, that's also an A. So you can use that, that's exactly the same. So again, if you need a reference, that's a great one for you. The last section I want to go over is measure 65. So here, it looks like the bowing stay the same as what we've known before of one separate bow, 2 slurs, and then one separate bow, but be careful because the second group has no slur in it. So 65 starts up bow, then we got the 2 slurs we're used to, but then we've got 4 separate. Then it changes back. Slur 2. 4 separate. Again, we're back to the 2 slur. 4 separate. Then we got the slurred again. Separate. Slur 2. Separate. Slur 2. Separate. Slur 2. Separate. So just watch out for that crisscrossed bowing there. It might be helpful to write the bowing direction at the start of each group. So if we start up bow, this is down, down, up, down, etc. So that can sometimes help just draw your eye's attention to that section. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If there's a section that I didn't go over in the video that you need a little bit of extra help on, comment on that below and I will gladly reach out to you and try to help you from afar. Thank you so much for joining me today. Happy practicing.